How's it going, Great Nation? Chris Thomas here. Hope you're having a great kind of day. And my guest on this installment of Great Nation is Taly Matiteyahu. And she is a part of an exciting new application called Blink. It is a dating application. To learn more about it, go to theblinkdate.com or check out the Blink Date on Instagram or at the Blink Date on Twitter. And really, the essence of the application is encouraging people to make non physical connections to people. Now, Taly, how does that exactly work within the application?
Yeah. So first off, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here and to share more with you. In terms of what that experience looks like in the application, folks sign up with very basic information, their age, sexuality, and location, and they upload a single photo of themselves. Once they've done that, they tell us their availability on a weekly basis. And based on that availability, we schedule them for what we call blank dates, which are 10-minute audio only dates. So there's no visual. You don't swipe on a profile beforehand. Your first encounter and experience with the other human being is through that 10-minute date. And if the date goes well, you move on to glances, which is 3 anonymized profileless photos that we show after the date, essentially asking if the person you just spoke with was this person, would you be interested in continuing the conversation? And if there's mutual positive feedback on the date and on the glance, then it's a match.
Okay, so people will have an opportunity after the conversation to see what the person potentially looks like.
Yep. And the idea being, it really relies on this relationship psychology concept of we're actually more attracted to people if we have connections with them. So you might say no to a photo just based on a photo on a profile, not knowing anything about the other person. But if you have a conversation with them first and it is amazing and it just blows you out of the water, you're probably going to be a little bit more forgiving on the photo itself. So you're more likely to say yes to someone if you have that amazing connection. And we're allowing that sort of natural process of getting to know people and having attraction develop, which is how psychologically it works, to happen through the app.
Now, in terms of the inspiration behind this idea, what drove you to think about this? Because your background is as a lawyer, and
Yeah.
from my understanding, you're still working for a, a legal tech company that is in the realm of artificial intelligence.
Yes. So I have a day job in addition to working on Blink, but Blink has been sort of percolating in my brain for a while. I ate at a blackout restaurant several years ago and got to know total strangers in complete darkness. And I had an amazing conversation with them. After our dinner ended, I saw them for the first time and I realized that had I seen them before the dinner, I would have assumed that we wouldn't have had anything in common and we probably wouldn't have had that beautiful conversation. And that's what really gave me this thought. Like, would people be more willing to meet and get to know each other if they didn't know what they looked like first? That isn't to say love is blind, to be very clear, but statistically, with traditional dating apps where you're swiping, people are making decisions in less than 1 second based on attractiveness and race. And that isn't really a great way to find a life partner, to be honest. You can't really understand if someone's going to be a good partner for you based on a 1 second decision.
And the aspect that I want to get a little bit more detail on within this portion of the discussion is how can this platform potentially change how people think about attraction and potential relationships, because we do live in this instant gratification society where people are swiping left, swiping right in a manner of moments, and they're seeking that immediate connection, and
Mm-hmm.
this sounds a bit more involved.
So I think you're right in some regards, and there's something missing from the story in the other regard. So 50% of single people are looking for something more casual. And so swiping for them might work really well because they're not looking for something serious. But 50% of single people are actually looking for something more committed. And when you look at that alongside the statistic of 79% of still single people are deleting dating apps because they're having a negative experience, you realize that there's a gap. There's a group of people who want to find something a more committed relationship, somebody who's going to be a better partner for them. And they're really struggling to do that with traditional dating apps. It works really well to be able to make those split second decisions and that have that instant gratification for some people, for some single folks. But for a very large number of people that isn't working well, but they just don't have anywhere else to go.
Yeah. So, from your perception, the project is filling a void in the marketplace in that way.
Yep. Yep. Our goal is to really help people who are looking for that committed relationship, helping them find it more efficiently, and also in a way that doesn't necessarily put, do I like your photos and your, curated profile enough to get to that stage where I have a conversation. And to be honest, like, a lot of the experience for people who are going through that process it can take a really long time to actually find out if you're compatible with someone. Like, I know you said earlier that this process seems more involved. We actually see it as slightly less involved because it's much quicker to determine whether or not you're compatible with someone in a 10-minute conversation rather than swipe, match, message, try to coordinate some time to chat, finally manage to get that time and go on a first date, potentially spend the time getting there and realize within a few minutes that it's not going to work out. Like, that is a much longer and a more involved process than just going on a 10-minute phone call date from the comfort of your couch.
Now, in terms of the mechanics of the app, will this be a membership based application? Will people have to pay to go on these 10-minute date conversations?
No, we will always have a free tier of our app where people can sign up and go on dates. We will eventually have a freemium model where we'll have some paid premium features. We're still too early to even have that though, so that's not even, currently an offering, but that is something that we're looking towards the end of next year. So for quite some time, folks will be able to use the app without any request for money.
Oh, wow. So, in terms of the project's funding, how will this get off the ground? Because I had seen on social media discussion of a beta test in the Los
Yeah.
Angeles area.
Yeah, so we're launching our beta actually now. We're in October, so we're hoping to launch it this month. We had some last minute things to sort out with the App Store to make sure we were compliant with all of their policies and requirements. So we're sorting that out, but we're really hoping that the beta will get out to Los Angeles this month. And then we'll kind of plan to expand geographically from there. So the next urban area we'd like to target is New York. And in the meantime, in terms of what we're doing as founders, we're looking to fundraise in the next few months so that we can really make that launch successful both in Los Angeles and in New York.
Do you think that the dynamics of how dating works in Los Angeles and New York will frame the trajectory of the app? So the results you see in the beta test in Los Angeles and New York will potentially influence how the app moves forward. And
Mhm.
one concern is that really representative of the entire country, the entire world?
So yes and no. I think to your second question of whether or not it's representative of the country and the world, New York and LA, they're both very urban areas. If you look at New York versus, somewhere in Idaho, you're probably going to get a very different sense of like how people date. But in the interest of launching something that requires like a two-sided marketplace where you need, all sorts of ages and sexualities and people interested in all sorts of things, in order to offer the best possible experience, you need a concentration of people. And so that's why we're kind of targeting it in urban areas for our initial launches, with the goal of eventually being able to expand to more rural areas and areas that might not have, population density. So that isn't to say that New York and LA will necessarily define the trajectory of the app forever, but they are kind of really great markets because they have that population density. We are looking forward to being able to get their feedback, and we think New York and LA are really interesting because they are similar in some ways, but also really different in others. So, for example, in LA, going on a date involves, potentially driving for an hour, and you can go on outdoor dates year round. And so it's one sort of dating. Whereas in New York, you're using public transportation, and you might live in different boroughs, and during the winter, you're not necessarily going on an outdoor date. So with COVID and everything, like, it's just very different types of cities and dating. So we think it will be really interesting to see how it goes in both places, be able to compare, see what gaps we have. And again, then once we launch there, we'll probably look at a few more urban areas before launching nationally.
In terms of the broad demographics, with dating apps, you have a wide array of people seeking certain types of connections. And I was just interested in how you will approach cases like a married person looking for a side relationship, or a disabled person trying to seek a connection and not having much success with traditional dating apps.
Hmm.
How will you meet the quote unquote needs of various people from various backgrounds seeking potentially different things?
I think the MVP right now is very basic. So as much as we'd love to be able to meet the needs of everyone immediately, unfortunately, we just don't. We just didn't have the ability to build that out for the MVP. With that said, we do want to have the app answer the needs of folks who are disabled, folks who are interested in different structures, like you know, dating is a really beautiful thing because everyone does it slightly differently. And I think the way that we really kind of do that expansion is talking to people who are within these different groups, understanding what pain points they're experiencing with existing dating apps, what they're looking for in a different experience, and try something, ask them if it's working, and iterate from there. Both myself and my co-founder have product backgrounds, and so I guess we take this product management perspective to building and iteration. So it's definitely something we're excited for. We just haven't gotten there quite yet.
And a problem with many dating apps is catfishing, where people use pictures of themselves that are not really representative of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
One of the interesting wrinkles within this new project is whether or not people will use someone else to serve as the date making the conversation. So someone who is very charming, they asked, uh, you know, their or someone who is not particularly charming. I'll frame it that way. So someone who doesn't have the gift of gab, someone who doesn't have a lot of personality or self esteem
Mm-hmm.
about themselves. They ask a friend who does have the gift of gab to go on these 10-minute dates, and they end up making tons of connections. How will you address potential instances where people request others to go on the dates on their behalf?
Right. So I think there's a couple things. If you look at a traditional dating app where people are texting and doing catfishing in all sorts of forms, whether it's photos that aren't representative of them or somebody else's photos entirely, the experience on and like in the example of a traditional dating app, I can text my friend and say, "Hey, what should I respond to this?" and essentially have my friend partake the entire text conversation. Whereas with a blink date with the audio only component, that person needs to essentially be with you in the same room. And so if you can get a friend to be with you in the same room for all your dates, you have a very dedicated friend. So it's the hurdle for having somebody catfish is much higher because it's not as simple as, hey, can you tell me what I should respond to this? The person needs to physically be there. That isn't to say it's not possible. I'm sure people can get very creative. We definitely want to make sure that the app is a safe space. So that's something that we will have to kind of figure out the best ways to minimize. I know also we want to add all sorts of like verification components in terms of how people sign up. We have basic verification right now with what's the word I'm looking for, when you sign up and it sends you a text message to make sure that it's actually your phone number. So there are verification methods we have right now. It's definitely something that we will be building on. But I do think the hurdle to catfishing is higher in this instance because it is a live phone call. It's not like you're recording a voice note and you can have a friend do that on their own time and then upload it to your app. The person needs to actually physically be there on the phone call for the date itself.
Yeah, it'll be interesting the lengths to which some people will go to try and get dates.
I really, perhaps that's true. I think the other thing to be said is, once you match, so if the date goes well and folks match on the date and the glance, then it's not like you're, suddenly going to go meet the person in person. You do go into in-app messaging, and at some point during the experience, catfishes usually get found out. And so whether the person decides to have, and we're going to enhance our post match experience. Right now it is just in-app messaging, but we do have lots of ideas and exciting plans for it. If folks go on a subsequent date, you might eventually realize I'm talking to two different people. The person I had the date with initially was sounded like one person. This person sounds like another. Again, unless you have a really, really dedicated friend who's willing to have all your dates for you, it would be really hard to fool somebody into thinking that you're, one person when you're really another.
Exactly. One of the things that you touched on previously is that with a lot of dating applications, when you see someone's picture, people make judgments about race, ethnicity, things like that. And I was thinking in terms of conversations, when people are speaking, oftentimes people have accents, and there's a whole body of literature that says people make assumptions based on how someone talks of their race. So people think that, well, if you talk a certain way, you have a quote black voice or African American voice. If you talk in another style, you have Asian or Asian American voice. Do you think that there's the potential still for discrimination that is voice based?
That's a really interesting question I've never gotten before. So this is sort of thinking through it as we speak. Um, I think it's people can discriminate based on all sorts of things. That is absolutely true. And, we can't eliminate discrimination. We can only make it easier for people to move past their inherent biases. Can we prevent people from discriminating based on someone's voice? No, unfortunately not. Down the line, something that we've heard about, and I don't actually know that this would be something for Blink, but something that I think is really interesting, and we know other people are working on, is voice modulation. So it's actually much harder to understand, like, does this person have an accent, or things like that. So you can add a layer of that to protect against it. Again, I'm not saying that that's something in the cards for Blink, but it is something that folks are working on. I think what we're offering is the chance for people who want to kind of break out of the mold and realize what they're doing isn't working for them. They really want to find somebody who is a compatible fit for them for a life partner. We're giving them the chance to go through that experience of dating in a different way. I hope that answers the question. But again, we can't eliminate bias. We can only really help people move past the inherent biases that they have.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting uh, potential obstacle moving forward, but
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like it'll be worth considering moving forward.
Definitely. Like I said, people can discriminate based on all sorts of things. So I definitely think that you're right there. It's something that could still happen.
Now, I wanted to ask this because you do work for a legal tech company
Mm-hmm.
that is in the realm of artificial intelligence. Is artificial intelligence a component of the project Blink?
Not at this moment. It might be down the line. We're really excited to see, how we can use AI to potentially supplement things and help people have better dates. But it is not part of our product right now.
Yeah, because it would be interesting if matching or potential matches could be done through artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm. I think, and that's something we'll definitely explore right now. And I think this is kind of a core premise of how the app works right now. There is no filtering beyond sexuality, age, and location. Because we don't want people, and something that you hear about with other apps is this kind of algorithmic bias, and that's something we really want to avoid. So if we do use AI, that's something that we would definitely be mindful of, because we don't want, what one person is swiping on to impact what another person sees, just because they might have similar profiles, which is how some dating apps unfortunately seem to do it.
Now, I think my last question, and I'm talking with Taly Matiteyahu, who is developing an app called Blink. And it sounds like a very intriguing approach to dating in the mobile online realm. I was wondering if you think that there will be, because it seems like with a lot of dating applications, people get demoralized if they don't get matches.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking that with this project, there is a potential for that to happen even more, in that people have these blind conversations at first,
Mm-hmm.
and they make a pretty, or they feel they make a nice connection with someone, and
Mm-hmm.
they end up not matching for whatever reason. The other person doesn't like the way they look. And this happens over and over and over. And I was thinking, people are making the time to go on these mini conversational dates,
Mm-hmm.
and they still can't find a match. And I was just thinking, how will you approach those cases where people are feeling a bit psychologically down because they can't find matches on this new platform?
Yeah. So to be clear, folks, if they don't match, they don't actually know if it's because they said yes or no to the photo or the other person said yes or no to the photo. So part of the glance is you have no idea which photo belongs to the other person. So you might be saying no to the person that you spoke with. And so that removes some of the psychological component of, oh, somebody's rejecting me. You have no idea what portion of the matching didn't work out. So that is one thing that we're doing to make sure that folks don't feel like, oh, I'm getting rejected based on how I look, or the conversation. You just don't know. It could be either side. Another thing is, I would say, on traditional dating apps, there is that instant gratification when you match. For some people, there are some people who match a ton, and those are people who are conventionally attractive. There are a lot of people who don't look like what we say, like Gal Gadot or Idris Elba, who don't have as much success on dating apps. And there are studies of,
Are
just to
you
be
talking
totally
about
frank,
me? No, I'm joking.
there are, certain minority groups. The ones that are most commonly spoken about are Asian men and Black women, who traditionally don't really have a great experience on swipe based apps and aren't getting a lot of matches. So I think the idea that traditional apps are kind of giving folks matches that we will somehow be not giving them, like, it's just not there. And I think when you're not matching in the Blink experience, it's more likely that you're not matching because you're not compatible, not because of some sort of physical judgment that somebody has passed on you. And so I think, rejection sucks no matter what. But I do think if somebody's looking for a committed partner, they're probably not going to be all that sad if the reason that they're not matching with someone is because there's a fundamental lack of compatibility. So, you know, again, like, there is obviously, like, dating is a journey. We don't necessarily think the first date you're going to go on is going to be the date. Like, dating is a process. We encourage people to make it a fun process too. I think dating right now can be really stressful, and we want to return some of the dating to the dating process. So no more, again, matching, no more messaging. Really just get to know people for 10 minutes, and if it goes well, then great, and if it doesn't, you now just ruled one more person out, and you're getting that much closer to finding your actual person. So that isn't to say that, it's suddenly going to be made, the easiest process in the world. You still need to put yourself out there and have these conversations. But we are kind of putting the more important part of the experience first, which is, are you compatible?
Yeah, and I really hope that the project works out. How many people are a part of the team?
So full time, we have myself and my co-founder. We have a development team that we're working with. They're not part of the Blink team, but they are an outsourced team that we're working with. We had a couple summer interns during this past summer, and we're bringing on a couple for this semester. And we also have people like friends and family who help out a lot. But in terms of the official Blink team, it is currently just two of us.
So running lean and mean.
Lean and mean, fighting machine.
Now, in terms of the investment in this project, do you see yourself being a part of it long term for an extended period of time?
Absolutely. This has been a dream and a passion of mine. And I'm honestly, like, I also think my co founder, we are very passionate and have long term visions and dreams. One thing I guess I'll just raise, the concept of getting to know folks without looks based assumptions being the first thing that you're judging from that applies in dating, but applies beyond as well. And so we have a lot of plans and dreams to expand the concept to other spaces. And that is a long-term plan. It's definitely not in the two-year plan, but more like a 5-10 year plan. So thinking forward and really excited to be able to throw myself into it entirely once we're able to leave our day jobs.
And I know a few moments ago I said last question, but I mean I'm enjoying this conversation so much, so I'm being greedy.
No,
but
I'm
but
enjoying it too. So this is great.
but in terms of the experience, because you are so involved and immersed in the project,
Mm-hmm.
how has it changed you as a person in any way?
Interesting. I think it's helped me realize what I'm really passionate about. I love my day job. I like the people I work with, but it's not what I'm excited to stay up late working on, and the things that power me. This has made me realize that I found what I want to spend my life doing, and I'm willing to do all sorts of things to help make that happen. And right now, that means giving up my nights, weekends, holidays, so that I can work on Blink and continue to pay the bills. And I think that's one thing I learned about myself. The other thing is, um, I'm I'm better at dealing with challenges than I expected. I had been working with somebody else before I worked with my current co-founder, and that was, the separation was really hard. Honestly, it's sort of like a romantic breakup. And so being able to go through those experiences and still come out on the other side and know that I'm doing the right thing for myself, but also for Blink, it's been a really transformative experience in all sorts of ways. So I think I've just learned that, like I said, I'm really dedicated to this and willing to do all sorts of things to make sure it happens, go through all sorts of challenges, and come out on the other side.
Now, I mean, there's a whole bunch of writing about maintaining a work-life balance, but it sounds like you're in a situation of a work life balance.
Yes.
You essentially have two full-time jobs. So
Hmm.
and you try and balance a personal life. How do you find a way to maintain a healthy life with the stress of getting this exciting new project off the ground in addition to your day job?
I probably could have a better work life balance, and I'm looking forward again to being able to take Blink full time so I can have work life balance instead of work life balance. But right now, I have a really supportive system. I have a partner who will be the person who brings me my lunches and dinners so that I can focus on doing the day job and then my night job. And I feel really blessed because he's made it possible for me to be able to spend more time working each day. And I think, again, I'm just sort of seeing it as a temporary hurdle till I can go back to just general work life balance, because I think it is super important. And to be honest, as we grow Blink and the team, it's something that would be really important for me to ensure that the team has. I would never want somebody to give up, um, their life. I think we should work to live, not live to work. And I think it's just, when you're a startup founder, there is a period of time where it's not going to be easy. And I see this as that period of time. And I'm okay with that because, like I said, this is the long haul. And so spending a year doing 2 full-time jobs in addition to trying to have my personal life, like, it is what it is. It's something that I'm willing to do to make this dream happen.
Well, Tolly, thank you so much, and I hope that you are able to accomplish your dream, because if you accomplish your dream, you'll be helping a lot of people along the way. Do you have any closing message to folks?
Well, first, again, I'd like to thank you for this. You asked a lot of really new questions, so I'm actually really excited to think about all of these new things. And I'd like to tell folks who are listening, if you are looking for love and a more committed relationship, and you're struggling, we hope that you give Blink a try. But if you don't, we also just, if you'd love to chat with someone, we love talking to people about their dating experiences and relationships. So please reach out to us, whether it's on Instagram or Twitter or email. We love talking about love.
Oh, wow. That's a nice tagline.
It's the first time
And
I've said it, so I like it. I'm excited about it too.
do I get a, a bit of credit for that?
You
Will I
do.
get? Yeah, okay.
You do.
No.
You inspired it.
Okay, so folks, if you're interested in learning more about Blink, go to theblinkdate.com, or check out the Blink Date on Instagram or at the Blink Date on Twitter. Taly, thank you so much for your time. And I wish you much success with the app.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Take care, everyone. We'll see you next time. And hopefully, we'll be chatting with another interesting guest. Take care.